Hello and welcome everybody to College Football Corner. Jersey Joe Archino and Anthony Carlo joining you today discussing the upcoming NFL Draft. NFL Draft Jersey Joe 2015, and we all know that in this league you're going nowhere unless you have a quarterback. So it would be fitting to start out with the quarterbacks. Joe, who do you have as your top pick for a quarterback if you're heading as an NFL team going into this draft?
Well, it's a lot of fun because I think everyone's kind of it's going to be, forever their careers will be linked. Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston, however their careers span out, they're always going to be compared with one another because they're the top two in this class. I have Marcus Mariota at number one. I just think a lot of people maybe are worried he's had that system quarterback label attached to him. I think that's all bogus. I mean, he's just a guy who I think is going to figure it out. Is he ready to play right now? Probably not. But I think a smart guy like him makes good decisions on and off the field. I think I'm willing to gamble on that. And I just think if you put him in the right system, coach him up, he's going to put in the work. I think the sky is the limit for Marcus Mariota.
Right now, the Buccaneers or the Titans may have a shot at that number one overall pick. And Marcus Mariota, certainly, as you mentioned, there has been that label on him that he is a system quarterback. And that's because he plays in that Oregon offensive, the Oregon Ducks offensive system. Now, based on the national championship game in which Marcus, listen, he didn't have his greatest game all season. We know we've seen him, we've seen him definitely do better. But maybe it wasn't so much of that as much as Cardale Jones and Ezekiel, the running back for Ohio State, stepping it up. But in your opinion, did that national championship game hurt Marcus's shots at that number one overall pick?
I think it reiterated the things that I already thought he had to work on. Definitely red zone execution is something that he had to work on. I just think all along I've known what his weaknesses are. I mean, he definitely has to work on maybe getting the ball down the field better. But I mean, the thing is, athletically, he's got so much working in his favor. There's no problem with his size or his ability to throw the football accurately. He can throw it on the run, moving to whatever side he needs to. I think maybe he's got to get a little bit bigger because even in that game you saw, Ohio State was just physically manhandled the whole team. So I think he's got to put on a little bit of size. But I mean, you just look at him. I mean, I think we have the size right there. What, 6'5", right?
He is 6'4", and he weighs in at 215 pounds. So he is. You know what? One funny thing is they always seem to add an inch or two here, a couple more pounds there. When I look at him on the field, I don't know if I see 215. I see more maybe 200, 205.
I agree. You don't see that, actually. And I just think the biggest thing I like about him is the turnover margin because that shows you a lot. I mean, in his Oregon career, never has had over 10 interceptions in a season. Not even close. I mean, even this season in the regular season, he only threw 2 picks, 2 in the bowl games. I think that shows you a lot when a guy can be that productive and that intelligent, not throwing the ball over. I think that's going to be huge in the NFL because that shows you even now how much he understands the game. He reads defenses so well, and that's half the battle in the NFL. Probably the hardest thing for a rookie quarterback is learning the game, reading an NFL defense, and I just don't think that's going to be a problem with Marcus.
Now, Marcus had 105 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and over 10,000, close to 11,000 total yards in his career as an Oregon Duck. But, we'll move on to that number 2 pick. I can probably guess who you're going to have in that 2 slot, but many people, they've been interchanging those two, and a lot of them have had, as you're going to mention, Jameis Winston as their number 1, and a lot of people also, I'll let you get to Jameis, but a lot of people also not cutting Marcus as much slack as maybe he should be cut. I heard some opinions that Johnny Manziel even was thought to have more talent, or NFL talent, let's say, in the NFL opposed to Marcus, just because, he it all comes back to that system label. But anyway, I'll let you get to your number 2 pick.
Yeah, I mean, Winston is the guy. I mean, look, no doubts about his ability to succeed in the league. Physically, he's a monster. I mean, a lot of the comparisons have been thrown around to Ben Roethlisberger. I think that's a pretty good, solid one. I mean, just a big guy, a big arm, really makes a lot of plays. But I just think smart people make good decisions on and off the field. And we just have not seen that with Jameis Winston. I mean, look at the quarterbacks who win Super Bowls. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, Ben Well, even Roethlisberger, let's not say him because he did have his fair share of troubles. But for the most part, these guys are just guys who are grinders. Put in the work. You just got to grind it out, watch the film, practice, always practicing. I just think that when you're going to put your franchise's hands into a guy, you've got to trust him. And I don't know if I trust Jameis Winston with my franchise hands. I think the biggest thing that I'm worried about is, will the playbook be his worst enemy? And I think that very well could be the case. This year, threw a lot of interceptions, much more turnover heavy than he was his rookie season. His first season with Florida State. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a big risk. Talent is not the be-all, end-all in the NFL. If it was, Jamarcus Russell would still be playing. And it just shows you a lot. Marcus, I think you've got all the things, all the trust in the world in the kid. Jameis, there's a lot to worry about.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that Jameis, when you look at him, everything about him says NFL quarterback. His size, his abilities to run, navigate outside of the pocket, throw the ball. He's got a cannon, but it all comes back to, like you referenced Jamarcus Russell. There's so many NFL players. Josh Gordon, wide receiver for the Browns, that they have this talent and they put it to waste because they can't, as you said, really mature themselves enough to realize, I've got to run a football team here. I've got to be the guy on this NFL team, and if I'm making poor off-the-field decisions, it's going to come back to bite me. I mean, that's the way it goes, and I think that a lot of people, are going to actually go for Jameis and not worry about that off-the-field stuff, opposed to picking Marcus and realizing that he may need some time to develop into that NFL system, which may be the wrong choice.
Really? I mean, it's a big, big gamble. You got to just remember, you miss on this. Let's say you're the Tennessee Titans and Jameis Winston follows you and you take him with the number 2 pick. If you miss, you set your franchise back 4 to 5 years. These are devastating. I mean, you look at Washington right now. I think we're kind of figuring out this RG3 thing's probably not going to work out. They're going to be set back for years. Now, they did also have to give up a lot of picks, which is a little bit different. But still, I mean, even the Raiders with Jamarcus Russell, it just disrupts so much of your momentum. If you think you're going in the right direction and you miss on these picks, you just can't miss, and I'm not sure if I'd be willing to risk my franchise's momentum for that.
I mean, you're absolutely right, and it's going to become difficult when there's a team that is in a tough position, that has been losing year after year and really is put against the wall. It'll be interesting what decision they make. Anyway, let's move on to number 3. Who do you have there, Joe?
You got to go with Brett Hundley out of UCLA. Now, at the start of this, I mean, we're doing this kind of as a series where we go position by position for the draft, the top 5s. I only see 4 franchise starting quarterbacks in this draft class. Brett Hundley being number 3 from UCLA. I just really like his toughness. I mean, his mental toughness, his athleticism, the way he throws the ball. The thing where I saw and I really knew that this kid was going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL was the Nebraska game after their UCLA, one of their players, Nick Pasquale, had his tragic death, and the team just rallied around that. And Brett Hundley, I mean, they were down in that game, and the way he just rallied his team together to come back and just really dominate Nebraska, it just shows you just the mental toughness of the guy, his ability to rally his teammates around him. And the thing I like my guys to be boring off the field. I don't need to hear your name all the time. Show up for work, go home. That's all I need from you. Brett Hundley, I think, he's got everything you would need. The only knock I have on him was not always the best performances against the bigger teams, the Oregons, some of the bigger Pac-12 teams. But I just think there's a lot to like with Brett Hundley. I would definitely be comfortable with trying to develop him into being my franchise quarterback.
Brett, 75 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, threw close to 10,000 yards, 9,966. But I like how you said, be boring, because a lot of the best players, whether you go across the board in any sport, I mean, look at even the recent retiring of Derek Jeter. What a celebration about his retirement, just for the fact that he stood away from the off-the-field controversy when he played. And, I like also how you noted, about Marcus Mariota. You've talked to me off-air about this before. No social media. And it's interesting to see that even guys who have social media, like LeBron James, I know you rattled off a few that have none at all, no Twitter account, but even LeBron James, he shuts it off come playoff time.
Turns it down.
You know, could Jameis win? Can we see Jameis doing that? You know, we can't blame him for something he hasn't done yet, but it's interesting to look at and wonder about.
It really is.
Bryce Petty, you see how you've picked for number 4. He, 230 pounds, big kid. So what do you see from him?
Big, definitely. I mean, I love his size. I mean, every time I was always been a little bit weary of Baylor, just because I think the label we have on Marcus Mariota about system is also the thing we look at with Bryce Petty. But I mean, his size has always been the thing that's made me kind of overlook that, because I mean, he's got a very prototypical size for a very effective NFL quarterback, very strong arm, a little bit turnover prone during his career there, but I think you look at he's got a lot of good things going for him. Definitely got good athleticism. I think he's a smart guy. I've listened to him in interviews a couple of times. Definitely seems to get it, and I think that's the thing you want. I mean, you want a guy who's smart, a guy who just wants to win. I think Petty's a guy. I don't know if I'd put him in the same class as the other 3. I think the other 3 are kind of in a class of their own, but I think Petty's definitely a guy who I would think I could maybe develop, and he could do something for me.
Well, we have finished the quarterback slate here on College Football Corner. Jersey Joe, Archino, Anthony, Carlo, can't even say my last name right today. Carlo, with you today. We'll be moving on to your top 5 wide receivers next when we return here on College Football Corner.